Hi guys, yes, I am your dorky friend Lisa and welcome back to my channel. As you can tell by the title, we're going into one of my favorite things today, conspiracy theories and literary truths about the truth. Anyway, in the last one, I went into the fake diaries, started back in the 60s by the so-called editor of the series, which is Beatrice Sparks. Well, there was one that I couldn't find when I was working on that video, of course, which was the Book of David. So, finally got a hold of a copy. It took some work because I literally went to 4 Barnes & Nobles, tried to get it from the local library, could not get it. So, all the online reviews and things that I read made it sound extremely homophobic. So, of course, I'm expecting the worst when I start to read this book. So, the whole premise of the book, of course, is obviously this is a closeted gay boy. And, of course, in all of these books, something horrible happens. It's always basically, I want to say suicide, because it's always them being the end of themselves because they're extreme cautionary tales. So that's what I was expecting, of course, to happen here. Surprisingly enough, not the case. Again, in this book, closeted young man, high school football player, him and his so-called best friend are competing football players, of course, for the college scholarships and that sort of thing. They both have the perfect Debbie cheerleader girlfriends. And then a new boy comes to town, which is John, and of course, all hell breaks loose because his pent-up emotions, of course, he finally, decides to, I guess, experiment, which he had never done before. And his homosexuality becomes more obvious to his so-called best friend, who honestly I think is a closet case himself, and that he's in love with David, but hey, that's just me. From all the stuff that I was reading on online originally, I was expecting, again, like I said, the worst of the worst. The most kind of, I think, well, because obviously these people are very conservative, anti-gay, which is ridiculous. But the worst, thing I think that I came across, honestly, was the whole "that's so gay" thing, which is obviously retarded and something, a 10-year-old would say. But, so, and I know I shouldn't use the word retarded in that sense, but I mean retarded as in developmentally, challenged, not someone who actually, has mental retardation. So you got me. Anyway, so in the Book of David, like I said, kind of all hell breaks loose when he starts realizing that he's in love with this other boy, and, things are reciprocated, and, things are happening. The so-called best friend kind of figures out what's going on, and he puts a spy cam basically in the bedroom, gets footage of them going at it, which, things happen. And of course it gets leaked, everyone sees, dad and mom freak out. Both boys think it's going to be like the end of the world. They finally get together and talk it out, and they're fine. He decides, of course, he's not going to live with his parents because, his dad's like, you can't be gay if you're under my roof kind of deal. And that's, of course, when I thought it was going to go all downhill. Because there was one of those, basically in all these books, there's always some sort of police report or some sort of suicide note or something along those lines as to what happened after the last entry or whatever, to like basically push that it's a real story, someone's real diary. So anyway, in this one, the most I got was basically the father tried to attack him with a hammer when he was leaving. Of course, police were called. He ended up going to the hospital. He was fine, blah, blah, blah. And then at the very end, because there's actually pages after that, he goes to live with John, and they, you know, are figuring out college stuff basically in LA, and it's all, you know, roses and peaches and all that good stuff. So this is not so much a cautionary tale. I was kind of happy about that, which kind of I questioned the, because see, this is a newer one, so I kind of questioned, because originally the theory behind the fake diaries was that Miss Sparks was commissioned by the church to kind of like push their little agenda, but this one, not so much, so maybe she didn't write this one. We never know. Anyway, so then the next thing that we're going into is one of my favorite childhood movies, and one of my favorite reads is The Princess Bride. Who didn't love this growing up? Wesley. I'm not, you know, a Carrie Ells like stand or anything, but I loved Wesley. And he says, "As you wish." Anyway, so this of course is the story of Wesley, the Dread Pirate Roberts, and Buttercup, who becomes princess, and Inigo Montoya, and, you know, the giant, and the adventures that it causes. Well, the thing is it's real. A lot of people don't realize it's real. It is an adaptation of a much larger, bigger book that is a historical book that you can't really get here. And if you watch the movie, there is Fred Savage as a little boy being read to while he's sick by his grandfather, and this is the story he's telling him. So you have two stories going on at one time. Well, that's actually how it really was going down. The gentleman who wrote this adaptation of the much larger story, Mr. Goldman, basically his father read him the story when he was a child, and he adapted it as he was telling it to him. He left out things like the princess school and political intrigue and all these things that wouldn't be interesting to a child, and left in the good stuff, the sword fights, you know, the adventure, the love story, and the winning of the princess, you know, killing the bad guy, you know, well, we didn't kill the bad guy, but, you know, beating the bad guy, I should say. So, but again, it's a real story. There's the long version, of course, which I've never been able to get a hold of. And then there's actually this story, The Princess Bride, goes past where it does in the movie, which is, of course, Inigo Montoya and Wesley and Buttercup and Andre the Giant's character all heading off on the horses. Well, in this version, which is based on the real story, basically they get lost on another path, not the path leading to where they need to be. They end up in the ocean. They end up on a small island. She ends up getting pregnant. And again, there's a sequel, which is Buttercup's Baby, which you can't get here. Like, I've tried, because I would love to know the continuation of the story. But anyway, so there's, like, you can actually go there, and you can take a little helicopter ride to the island, and there's, like, the princess school and everything, like you can go see the castle, all that stuff. It exists. It's real. So if you're, you know, a huge, you know, Princess Bride fan, do it. I'm sure it's expensive as hell, and I'd never be able to afford it, but that would just be, like, such a magical trip, I think. Anyway, so the next thing I'm going into, which is kind of a recent discovery, but not, I didn't realize to the extent. A lot of famous books have sequels that are not quite as famous, like, which I covered in my last conspiracy theory videos. There's Mr. Dahl had a sequel to the Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, which is Willy Wonka and the Glass Elevator. Well, there's a new movie getting ready to come out, which is a modern adaptation of Little Women. So, everyone knows the story of Little Women, but did you realize there are, because I didn't realize there was 3, but there's 3 freaking sequels. There's The Good Wives, Little Men, and Joe's Boys. So, if you're interested in this, let me know, comment below. I'm rereading, Little Women, because I read it when I was like 12. So, and I'm going to go through and read the other ones. And another book, which I'm going to keep secret, but I'm going to do, I'm thinking, a video on that and maybe discuss what the changes could be for the modern adaptation and what's the continuation of the story, because everybody already, like, they know Little Women. And if that sounds like if that sounds interested in you, comment below, let me know. So, as always, guys, I had fun. I hope you did too. And go read something. And I'll see you here next time. Bye, guys.